My emotion was no bounds as organizing an important event for the first time in years, 3 months, and 25 days. The last of it happened for lunchtime on November 2019. And there could have been no better occasion than International Women's Day. Thus, today, as Polymer Twitter, the first Legal Women's Day that came across went like this. Happy International Women's Day to women who are multitaskers in the form of mother, sister, daughter, and wife. All very touchy and emotional. I find this from my perspective, of course, ironical and problem. In the process of recognizing the efforts for the women, a social responsibility has been certainly imposed upon them. It isn't about making women strong, they want to be strong. It's about changing the way the world perceives them. Today's panel discussion revolves around the very interpretation of ideas, choice, and justice for women. And rights, legal, moral, and social codes are determined by hegemonic claims of equality. Exploration of the notion of justice and fairness to women can be embarked upon only after piercing the veil of neutrality, impartiality, and conformity. When we examine the development of law, we realize that with the demands placed in the women's movement, women were added to the law project, particularly after women started claiming the rights and citizens within an overarching democratic system. We're going to discuss this and much more today in an exciting panel, consisting of the old guard of university debating. In the very last Harry Potter movie, Professor McGonagall uses the spell Auditorium locomotive. I used the spell to this back, and I was able to gather the 18 for this panel. Read panel discussions of the Degree Festival, moderating panels like this one, or mentoring and guiding potential debates for several across to the university. The people on stage today have been instrumental in shaping the university debating. Established in 1973, the UDLC is celebrating the golden jubilee of the club, and this event can be perceived as the first official event as we move towards celebration. We have an exciting list of events in the upcoming months, which of course includes the AEU Festival. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Sharani, coordinator of the Center for the Legal Affairs.
Good evening and welcome to all of you to this International Women's Day. Every year, Women's Day is observed around the world to honor the social, economic, and cultural achievement of women from all areas of life. The purpose of celebrating this day is to honor women's accomplishment while also raising awareness about bias. Historians have defined feminism as situations. What feminism was and is and has been subjected to an ongoing debate, not only for activists but also for scholars. 25 years ago, Dennis Valle suggests that women is an unstable category and that feminism is the sign of systematic fighting that results out of that instability. I think writing women's back into history become extremely important in the period, with attention to the differences of experience based on class and geography and sexual orientation. Once in one of the most progressive women of India, the Aligarh Muslim University also slugged into that great attitude of attracting society. Aligarh very lovingly and proudly moved the champions who have contributed enormously for the women awakening. Like Swachhtai, and Heather, Wajidar Tabassum, Khurshid, Begum Para, Papa Mia, Sajida Zaidi, Lucia Zaidi, Zahida Zaidi, Akbar Jahan, Lady Heather, Razia Khan, Beauty Jahan, many more. All they work to promote novel kinds of activism, call into question much about their political, emotional, and cultural. In the end, I would like to recite one of my favorite best poetry ever written about the empowerment by none other than Charles, the famous poet who had also and University Tarana. This ghazal has titled Naujawan Khatun ke Naam. हिजाबे फित्न परवर अब उठा लेगी तो अच्छा, खुद अपने हुस्न को पर्दा बना लेगी तो अच्छा। तेरी नीची नजर खुद तेरी किस्मत की मुहाफिज है, तो इस लश्कर की तेजी आजमा लेगी तो अच्छा। तेरी जी जबीन को देख सदा कानून फितरत में, इसी शमशीर से तारे सजा लेगी तो अच्छा। ये तेरा सर्द रुख, ये खुश लब, ये वहम, ये वहशत, तू अपने सर से ये बादल हटा लेगी तो अच्छा। दिले मजनू को मजनू करने से क्या हासिल, तू आंसू पोंछ कर अब मुस्कुरा लेगी तो अच्छा। तेरे जेरे निजी घर हो, महल हो, कस्र हो, कुछ हो, मैं ये कहता हूँ तू अर्ज़ को संभाल लेगी तो अच्छा। अगर खिदमत में तूने सर उठाया ये तो क्या हासिल, वही महफिल में आकर सर झुका लेगी तो अच्छा। तेरे माथे का टीका मर्द की किस्मत का तारा है, अगर तू साज बेदारी उठा लेती तो अच्छा। आया है दुश्मनों के खंजरों पर खून के थप्पे, इन्हें तू रंगे आरिस से मिला लेती तो अच्छा था। सना ने खींच ली है सर फिरे बागी जवानों ने, तो सामान जराहत अब उठा ले तो अच्छा था। तेरे माथे पे ये आंचल बहुत खूब है, लेकिन तू इस आंचल से परचम बना तो अच्छा। थैंक यू वेरी मच। वेलकम।
Thank you, Dr. Shaiful. I would invite Dr. Sada Paricha, President of the University Debating Group, for opening remarks.
Assalamu alaikum. Today we are here to celebrate International Women's Day. Women are not only an important component of the society, but also 50% of the total humans on earth. Women are strong, powerful, beautiful, capable, and invincible. As homemakers, teachers, engineers, doctors, architects, astronauts, and fighters for peace and sustainable development to save the environment, we make this world more livable and livable. As we all know, 8th March is celebrated internationally as the Women's Day to recognize the social, cultural, economic, and political achievements and contributions of women. So here I would just like to share the history of this Women's Day celebration. The first time International Women's Day was celebrated in 1909 to recognize the efforts of those 15,000 women who in the year 1908 marched to the New York City demanding shorter work hours, equal pay structure, and voting rights. At that time, female workers were believed to be less efficient than the male workers. Therefore, they were paid less. This International Women's Day has its roots in Germany's labor movement also, which happened in 1911, and Russia's protest for bread and peace, which happened in 1970. Russia's protest was on the last Sunday of February, which was 23rd February. However, Russia did not follow the Gregorian calendar until after the revolution, and 23rd February in Russia corresponded to 8th March in the other European countries. Basically, this day is now not associated with any one country, but is dedicated to all around the globe. At the same time, it celebrates the diversity of life, particularly around women. The main motto behind is to create a gender equal world, which would be free of bias, free of stereotypes, and all kinds of discrimination. A world that would value and celebrate the difference instead of compare and criticize. The theme for International Women's Day 2022 is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. It aims at recognizing the crucial role of women in saving and sustaining the world from climate change and environmental disasters by encouraging social, cultural, and economic activities surrounding women and giving them a seat on the high table that they deserve. Here I remind you of some lines from a song. I am woman, hear me go. I am woman, hear me go. In numbers too big to ignore. Oh yes, I am wise, but it's wisdom born of pain. Yes, I have paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong. I am invincible. I am woman. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'd like to invite Mr. Usano, Master's in English Literature from the Aligarh Muslim University and a senior most member of the University Debating and Debate Club, who will be acting as the moderator for this panel discussion. Mr. Usano. I'd like to invite Mr. Abdullah Pervez to introduce our panelists.
Good evening to one and all. I am Philip Pervez, present before you to introduce our first panelist for today's discussion on ideas of reason, choice, and justice. Are they interpreted differently for women? Before I continue on to the introduction, I would like to divert your attention towards a quote by Thomas Carlyle that emphasizes on what lies in the making of an individual's system of a thinking. It is but the upper surface that is shaped into articulate thought, and neither region of argument and conscious discourse lies the region of criticism. Professor Aisha Munira Rashid has been teaching graduate and postgraduate courses in English and ELE since November of 2000 in the Department of English. She has also been guiding PhD thesis and MA level dissertation. Her research specialties include Islamic literature and culture, comparative literature, gender studies, and social studies. She has presented research papers and delivered talks in several national and international seminars and conferences on related topics in India, USA, UK, and Italy. She is associated with some international journals as editor and reviewer. Essays and reviews have appeared in national and international journals of repute and also as chapters in books. She is associated with Government of India Enterprise Pathshala as a module writer. One of her important publications is Palestinian Anti-Colonialism and Literature in the Encyclopedia of Post-Colonial Studies 2016, published by Wiley. A recent publication of hers is contribution of a research article and translations titled Poetic Resonance of the Message of Sir Sayyid and the Aligarh Movement, translating Sayyid in Law Turbat, and Talbai Aligarh Inam by Abbas, and Taranai Aligarh by Majaz. In Oxford of the East, Aligarh Muslim University, Centenary from America, Volume 2020. She is also associated with the Center of Continuing and Adult Education and Extension, ANU, since January 2018, in the capacity of Deputy Director. And we are proud to welcome you to this panel. Please come. I would like to now call upon Abir Aftab to introduce our next guest. Thank you.
Dr. Nafis says is currently an assistant professor of community medicine at Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, a legal Muslim university. He completed his MBBS and MD from JNMC and went on to obtain his MBA from Manchester Metropolitan University. He is also an alumnus of the Poverty Action Lab Executive Foundation, International Public Health University, and People's Open Access Education Initiative. He is a research trainer for Epidemiological Research Unit and Public Health Research and Assistance Society in different aspects of research methods, design, biostatistics, software, and research dissemination. He is also a member of multiple professional associations, including International Epidemiological Association, Health Action International, Statistics Without Borders, IPSM, and IPHA. I would now like to call upon the stage Dr. Nafis Saidi. I would now like to call Annie Hassan upon the stage to introduce the next panelist. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's move on further to welcome our next guest for today's panel discussion, Dr. Tarishika Sarvesh, a remote public speaker and a social researcher. She is an assistant professor of sociology in Advanced Center for Women's Studies at UDLC University. She has contributed a lot in various journals and books and often writes in popular media platforms such as The Wire, The Print, Music, and the India Forum. She is an ex-journalist. During time, she covered crime and social hate in Delhi. She has worked a lot on gender inequality, casteism, and patriarchy in India. She has also been a part of Cultural Education Center, AMU, when she served as the president of the club for short degree courses in 2017 and 2019, and has trained young debaters for national debates. It is an honor to have you here, ma'am, and we wholeheartedly welcome you. Please come on stage. I would now like to call Naila Amjad to introduce our next panelist. Today's guest that we have with us today is Mr. Syed Salman Abbas. He has been in the field of foreign language teaching since almost 7 years in various institutions, including the JNU, the DU, and the MIT University. He did his master's in German at the University of Delhi and his MPhil research at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. Mr. Abbas has to name the coordination of two international translation projects at the Free University Berlin and the University of Bogota, Germany. He also recently was part of the South Asia wide translation project called Poets Translating Poets under the Rotary Institute of Mumbai. Sir, it is an honor to have you with us today. We look forward to gaining from your experience and thoughts. I'd like to request Mr. Abbas to please come on stage.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening to everybody present here. So I remember in 2019, the last offline event we had on women was a Women's Leadership Summit, and unfortunately, it was vandalized, and the students of Abdullah Hall, they were forced to retreat to their hostel, which is very sad. But it feels really happy to be starting 2 years later on this very note, and we are gathered here in Kennedy Hall, and it makes me very happy that we are discussing women's issues right here, right now. So, welcome to each one of you, and let's begin with the definition of what reason, choice, and justice are, and what the panelists think means to them, not in an essence of what is generally defined, but in terms of gender. So, Tarjika Ma'am, please.
So, you want me to define choice means to me, what reason means to me, what justice means to me. Um, Equality is one part of justice. There are many components of justice, and equality, I feel, is just one aspect of justice. I feel that justice would be when people have equal opportunity to do certain things, and not just about policies, not just about having representation in government policies or policy matters. For our lives, to form friendship, to have social relationships of our desire and not dictated by anybody. That kind of freedom for me would include justice. And as Amar Singh has also talked about this, the aspect of freedom when we talk about justice. And freedom also comes with its own limitations, of course, everybody knows that. And my freedom should not hamper your freedom, should not restrict your mobility. But the simple thing is right to mobility on the streets, on public transports, choice of profession that we want to make, choice of education that we want to take up, and the reason. For example, there's one example that we use about the choice that we make sometimes. If a woman is going alone outside and then she is labeled as a attention seeker at times, but if he's going outside alone, he is considered as a regular person going there somewhere to eat, to participate somewhere. But for women, the reason is used differently. That's what I feel.
Thank you so much.
I'll spend about uh, take on definitions. It's as simple as that. So it's the ideas of reason, choice, and justice. Are they interpreted differently for women? Definitely yes. There's no one disagrees with. We need to move on. If I move on, what I really mean is this is something which is justice. Put a white color over it. So see what it is. It is not give or take. And now we know that it's a considered the world's first modern novel. It's a 3,000 pages and so on. But it's undownloadable. What I have learned from Don Quixote is one thing, that agreeable conversations should be reduced to footnotes. Otherwise, look at the rest. You see, agreeable conversations should reduce us to footnotes. So we already know that yes, choice, justice are completely different from women. And why is that different? The other thing that I really want to declare before I even start, I'm fascinated with the work of Michael Alexander. And for the past 2 years, I've kind of been obsessed with it. So he has not worked on feminism or women in particular, but his drift from John Rawls to quoting before is something that I'll bring up again and again. Saying that you should be oblivious to the gender of a person before making just giving a verdict is completely wrong in my opinion, because that demeans that person. So it's important to appreciate the structure that is behind that. And we also appreciate the fact that all of us have been conditioned.
And therefore, when we talk about these choices, let us actually engage in a solution-centric point of view so that it changes even, one centimeter later. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the disclaimer, sir. I know discomfort is verified our answer. Aisha ma'am.
Thank you very much, Arusa. So, you have first assigned us the job of defining these three terms which are a part of the topic. So, reason comes first, second is choice, the third is freedom. Are they interpreted differently or both the panelists who have spoken before me have referred to John Rawls. Let me also again invoke Lord John Rawls. Okay, he's Professor Emeritus Secretary, means something. So there's something he talks about which even the world on the world did talk about. That is justice. Let me put justice based on reason. Justice being spelled out or defined by people who are neither male or female, neither high class, neither from high class or low class. They don't have any specific class, gender, or color association. They don't come from any kind of background. They live in a kind of vacuum of social gender association or identity. So they are the ones who can decide what should happen. And those people, this is also related, because we know that this is created as a thought experiment in which some people will sit together and they will decide the reason and on the basis of reason to decide what justice should look like in our society. So they should know what they're going to achieve after we go out of, say, our team, where we are trying to enact justice for members of human society. So they don't know whether they will be the beneficiary, they will be the losers, or they are going to suffer because of the fact that they have designed laws for or against certain people. They should just not know what lies at stake for them. So this is a very ideal kind of a situation that talks about. And also, this is something that has also been discussed by the world. We need, and many other feminists, we need some hermaphrodite or some people who have had the experience of being a woman as well as man in order to decide what should be the norms for men and women in the society. So it's a very ideal situation, but let me also send you a resume or the audience who have turned out today here that if you think that we do not move towards ideal justice and we just insist on conservative justice that is more concerned with status quo, whatever happens in the society is all right. If we trust that, we will never progress as a society. And since we are having this discussion here, and we have opened the proposition and Sada, many people behind it, they've all opened within the auditorium for this panel discussion after maybe more than 2 years. So let's decide that we are sitting here, we're not wasting our time, we're looking towards a better future as a human society, wiser human society, and that's why we're discussing this topic. With this optimism that may sound a little wishful, at the same time, with this optimism, I think we should start our discussion.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, ma'am. Salman sir.
So I think it's given when we go and sit in a panel like this, it's given that we are in a way in agreement with what the heading, what the topic of discussion is about. So as the earlier speaker said, we can't easily agree with that, but we can always go to the why part of it or the how part of it. That we acknowledge that I think right now I'm talking about reason in the sense of reason as it is defined by Enlightenment thinkers of Europe. And like a
a capacity of the mind to think about it. So from that point of view, we can discuss this. And to that, I also take the idea of choice. So choice taken by individual is basically the one in active situation, right? We think that we want to present. But is it then same for all? That is the question. It will not the case. Because we can perhaps agree to a certain extent the idea of expressing reason, but do we use it in all our choices? That is the question. Or are we allowed to? And for that, I think it's very clear that in society or in the world where there is inequality, we are having the value of our choices. So, and that applies to everybody, especially for women. When they are making the choices, we always keep the ideal choice and the primary principle and the cardinal idea people's decisions and everything. But behind those choices, are they employing reason? And I here the ideal reason as capital R, global reason, not different kinds of reason, but logic, universal, different spaces. And in that sense, it's quite clear that because we live in a world of finding good, we live in a world which doesn't allow you to practice your own freedom, and it is defined by inequality. People normally don't have the reason defining their choices. So yes, that's something to do with the board.
Am I audible? Yeah. So I'll just add one point to it. It's not just about reason. I feel it's also about the freedom to alter, not just about choice, but uh, the freedom to alter your choices. Do women have that freedom to change their choices as and when they feel that they are more informed, have more knowledge about something, or have more experience about something? Is there enough freedom to change your choices? But that is also one question I think we should deal with.
Thank you so much for sharing your understanding with us. That brings me to a very important idea that covers these three issues, or these three concepts, rather, and that is cultural relativism. Women face jurisdiction and censorship of choice and freedom at multiple levels, whether it be religion, whether it be culture or law. There are layers, many layers to filter out, to select out any action or decision that challenges the step quo. So how the law and culture react to a woman's right to dress? For example, we have the Karnataka issue going on around the hijab. So taking it apart from the political issue around the hijab, the Muslim identity, bring it down to a woman's decision to dress a certain way regardless of her religion. So she's policing around that. So how is a woman supposed to navigate around it? How is a woman supposed to express her identity where there are so many forces trying to suppress her agency? The floor is open for any panelists to come.
So what in connection with what Saman just said, that our reasons are governed. This was his question. Our reasons governed by our choice is governed by reason or in kind of logic. So this is a question that is inherent that lies at the bottom of what we've asked. When identity is something that is about saying this. We have to actually identify ourselves with a certain group of people who have certain kind of solidarity. We do not live in isolation. We have to be a part of a society. So in order to that, what we do is that we try to our dresses, to the way we talk, and also the way what we eat. All these many other decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis actually are based on the fact that we are identifying ourselves with a certain group of people, a certain community, men, women, a certain religious community, a certain national community, due to which what we do, we actually surrender the fact that you can make a choice. It's very difficult to understand whether or not we are making a choice, or for that matter, in case of today's discussion, when we're not making a real choice, a real choice in the sense that it is what their inner voice says to them to do. Okay, it's a very difficult problem. There are various factors involved, like political factor. That's a very important factor we need to remember. In case of what we have just mentioned, the hijab issue, the hijab how that has actually drawn the attention of the entire media and all the people consume the media. You know, what's going on there? No women really have a choice there. If they are put into a corner that they have to dress in a certain way by people of a certain community who are more powerful than, rather, if we use the word, by men of a certain community who are more powerful than the men of her own community. So if she's going to abide by the rules of the sartorial choices which are preferred in her community, or the sartorial choices which are being demanded from her by those people who are externally trying to impose certain rules on her, rules of uniformity. We all should get the same. So there's no identity there, and the bigger identity is to be kept in mind instead of the communitarian identity. So the more powerful men may be resisted against, in this case, up to the women. And in this case, the choice, definitely the situation becomes too dicey and say whether or not women will have any choice.
So you're saying that there is an illusion of choice. Yes, what would anybody like to add? Under pressure. Under pressure. Okay. One of them.
So this is where that the person will always be made. The problem is not about that. The problem is that the foundational premise is flawed. The foundational premise is male supremacy. Let's take it. Foundational premise is male supremacy. Then there are the supporting pillars. So the first supporting pillar is structures, policies that are governing, or the said and unsaid laws as well. You know, areas of the day. All of them, law-based and unsaid laws. The second pillar that does that is the interpersonal dynamic relationship between men and women in a certain way, in a certain state. So the interpersonal, and it changes. It does change. So I still remember. Sure, I said, very good. Thank you, all of you put together. Kennedy Auditorium has seen a sea change. Girl is not allowed to see in this particular auditorium. I saw that with my own eyes. So yes, interpersonal changes we need to value it, cherish it, and also grow that. You know, structures also need to be changed. But the third is the most difficult task, which one is also probably trying to point out. Third pillar that contains this false premise is internalized, internalized self-subordination. Somehow I do not have it. Because I have been conditioned in such a fashion, in such a way, that this is what we do. Now, unfortunately, for me as a man, it's very easy to say, or for women who are liberated to the extent that they have salary from community, it's very easy to say that this woman is not making the right choice, this woman is probably making the right choice. We should let this discussion go away. Women are moral agents, they must be moral agents within the education framework that we work with. So, Ajagriti Mahila Sansthan, which with whom I work, women in their, these are lower caste women, Karnataka and sadly found to die. There have been instances where she was paraded nude in her village, but she didn't ask to be a man. And she is actually the moral agent that we are talking about. No matter what dress she wants to wear, whether she applies bindi or not, whether she adorns her hijab or not, we can keep on discussing those things. But women are as much moral agents in whichever way they come forward to us. And that is what our by default position should be. And they should be given that choice. So we should not be pretentious about the fact that the foundation premises privacy, structures, interpersonal relationships, and internalized behavior are the pillars that people support.
As a third moral agent, isn't the same Korean moral guardianship that was assigned to women then? I think
So I had to come to that. But the thing is that, when John Rawls makes a decision, and this is where the foundational difference is, that you are behind a curtain and you are making a verdict. Instead of that, people like Barack Obama and that philosophy came up. That women in the workforce is a smart people. Simon goes a step further and he says, it's not about smartness. It's not about being invisible to by making choices. It's the right thing. So it's about moral choices that people make. And we are trying our best that each and every person makes a good moral choice. Of course, that's not possible for any of us. But when at first a woman comes up, we are no one's to say, regardless of her place or social location, we should be open to her being a moral agent and making a choice. We should let her define whether it's actually a free choice that she has made. That's what-
So, there confusion in that regard. And what then even a person island of some sort, like if she's an individual comes from a state kind of a background. You already mentioned that, but they are from a particular background, they have social background, everything is then there comes the idea of the choice they make. We can't question it, okay, in that presentation. But then again, those choices are in that sense analyzed by people, and they have, consequence to what you do. There comes the analysis that the choices they are making are actually coming from interpretation, and what and and that's what we are also trying to do is critique and put in the past. I think that has to be done because if we play the safe position when clouds, touch that, there that is the problem of they are sitting inside the band and then the flow, it is forced. That will not happen because there will be forces that we can put in that flow. And then you can't take in that sense that it was maybe allowed or left unchecked. I'm not saying, judge them or analyze them. That's over here. So therefore, I think, yeah, I mean, of course, they always say that a man cannot take a woman, not speak on behalf of a woman because then the man does not do what the woman does so on a daily basis. But even then, we still understand the structures we are living in, same structures the woman is also living. This is the power. And those forces are always finding other choices.
that's what I wanted to say about choices. That are we going to leave it at that? If it's a woman's choice and let's accept it. We don't have a choice but accept. Of course, anybody's choice that has to be accepted. But as we were discussing, it has to be analyzed. Under what circumstances those choices are being made, in what conditions those choices are being made, that has to be analyzed. And about the moral agent, if you're talking about the moral agency, then everybody, all the genders, every little being existing is a moral agent and has to be a moral agent. So we have to keep our internal moral compass strong, able to understand the world around us and create an enabling environment where people can make different choices, people can make more informed, more confident choices. For that, we need to analyze the choices and the environment in which these choices are being made. So that's my take on choice. and the environment and also the moral compass of us as a society in general.
Thank you so much. I got a term from Nafisa, internalized self-subordination. And homogenizing is something that we did touch upon indirectly. So, solidarity among women is often confused with homogenizing, and women's choices are often reduced to binary. So, either she is free or oppressed, she is conservative or liberal, she is dependent or independent. So, this in a way creates an illusion of choices where the woman is forced to choose between the two options available in front of her. So, has the system conditioned the women to find comfort in subjugation? Because this, in a way, when women are put under the illusion that they're making a choice, they're actually not. So that leads to their subjugation. So have they been um, internalized to self-subordinate?
Uh, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that since women are moral agents, it does not mean that she's not affected by power structures and power. That's definitely true. I'm not saying that you do not analyze that. You have to analyze the fact that you analyze that. The answer is yes. I will not analyze it. The answer would have been I don't know. So it's analyzed. That's what the point. The point that I'm trying to make is when you say and you start the discussion with the fact that are they making free choices? I need all of us to take a step back and say that, you're a woman, you're as good as man. There have been changing power dynamics. They haven't changed like the way it should be, but you speak first. Let me know what is your choice. Why have you chosen for it? I know that this is not a moral lesson, but the fact is that the woman who is so-called oppressed or the woman who is so-called liberated must be able to justify their position and say that, this is the choice that I have made. And then it is upon us to decide and analyze and, do all the, you know, things to actually understand whether it is a free choice or not. It's debatable. But the point is, when you talk about solidarity and reduce solidarity and compassion of women together, humanitarian agenda that leads the growth of women, that is peace. And too often than not, and many of the feminist groups that I've been part of, they said that men should not be a part initially, back in the 80s and 90s. And it was fine. It's fine that they do not allow any man because they think that it comes from that power structure that they affected. Of course, there will be women also internalized, and the person dynamics would be there. But my bigger point is let them speak. At the end of the day, it is about assertion of the moral agency of that woman. Understanding that the woman says, this is the case, this is why I've made that choice. And then we are there to actually help her out and find solidarity against what she's doing or within what she's doing. That's the point.
So on this, I'll just add one more aspect and one more phenomenon that we witnessed in the past few years when women said, and there were allegations against some very powerful people. Then the whole idea of is the women lying, is the women lying, or how do we believe because it happened in the past, now we can't prove it. So my question also to Dr. Faizi about this, because we've been struggling with this idea collectively. So since you are proposing that a woman should be allowed to express and should be allowed, should be believed when she's saying something, and her moral compass should not be suspected. Uh, what do you say about these movements that we've seen in the past?
I didn't get your question.
That's not what you meant. Okay. No, but you're saying that women's opinion should be kept before anybody else.
It is she who will clarify her opinion. It is she first who would say that, as far as it is concerned, I mean, it's particularly known phenomenon. If a car is hit from a car from behind, that car will be responsible. So if the one comes up to say that this has happened, that will be taken as true. Otherwise, the woman has been that is the rule we should go.
That's what what I'm saying, that this is what you were trying to do. Yeah, that's what we also want, but things really didn't turn out to be that way. And many women had to face a backlash and they lost their jobs because of that.
Exactly. This is where the Nancy Krieger framework is not a framework by Krieger. She's a she's too big an acronym on this too. The framework comes in. That, if you want to break it down, it is just the support. That is one support that you're getting. That you have to endless mistakes. You have to launch an FIR, for example. But the second thing is the interpersonal and internalized dynamics. And they need to change. We need to do more to do that. And, this is where I'll come up later.
Two things that came to mind when I was speaking. Choice and respecting women's choice. So for any kind of choice to be respected, rather than any kind of choice to be considered as a choice, it two very basic conditions. Number one, information. Number two, freedom. And they can both be ensured by justice being uh, provided. So in a just society, a woman will have all the information that is necessary to make a choice, and she would also have all the freedom at home within the four walls of her house. She would also be given freedom to make a choice. There will be no kind of pressure. So this is a situation that, as Tarushika says, that we have to actually pave the way to usher in a future. That we make a society, or we try to make, we can keep trying to make all the time. If we stop making attempts, the society will definitely, I know, a replace where with the Stone Age. So we always have to keep working hard enough to ensure that not only women, so men have the right kind of information and also have the freedom to make a choice. There's this sentence I seriously felt using that word. Rather, I couldn't follow that sentence, and that happens with all of us by default. We use the sentence. A woman also, her moral choice should be respected because are as good as numbers. So this sentence tells us that we often base humanity on the pattern of male instead of female. Although there's no basis for no reasonable logic behind it, but if you look at from language, especially English, we know that we base, even in Indian Urdu, we imagine humanity as male, and when we think of the word woman who plus man, we look at WOO as a negative marker to the signifier man. So we uh, try to look at male human species feature and female observe being something of pattern similar to men, but not exactly equal. So you are as, as good as men are. This was something that you didn't do it on purpose, but figured something new, not any kind of negative response, but some kind of intellectual response. Yeah, because that's what we do sometimes. We also, in our subconscious, we have these markers, we have these benchmarks, and we try to say that, the person is not less, not better. So we have these, and the society has given us these markers. Sometimes by default, we end up using the same language unintentionally. Right. So here also there's another term that came up about women being compassionate. So the whole burden of compassion and the whole burden of care, not about you. In general, that's what we hear a lot. Since in our discussion it came up, I just remember that most of the time that's what when people want to say, positive things about women, they want to say that they are they support women's rights or they support basic way and pattern to exist, they end up saying that we have to protect them. They are the most compassionate beings alive. So this is another issue because this whole burden of being compassionate and carrying it on your shoulder single-handedly, it has been quite overbearing. So I would like Dr. Perry, Dr. Salman to respond to these ideas.
Add to what you were saying, real example, are, it's a known story. Right? Another people going, I think, buildings in the capital city, they don't have female models. So he would use the man's body for man's, that's fine, but when he came to women body, man's body, it add differences. He would be a masculine added to the and that's a very, it's a story. So that even for the moment, right? It's one and from there we start attributes and then have added sections for the moment. This is the good example in art as well. And for example, also have in drama and theater. But in India, female in Japan, theater of Japan also have they don't have any skills. They have men acting as women and in the role of anything else.
Response to what you said, you talked about when women begin with their own sort of passionate response, duty to be compassionate. Okay, this is definitely not. I, so yeah, so when before the panel discussion started, Dr. Sadat issued round. She read out a very beautiful poem by Majalis. Majalis, the son of Aligarh Muslim University, and we sing this Tarana on every little occasion that we organize. Any event will not be complete without the red. is without the red is the one. He's the one who wrote that beautiful poem. That's a beautiful poem, you know, she's sitting here. In the poem, this has been said, somehow he's trying to tell women that he's not mansplaining. He's just trying to tell them, maybe because even if you say that he's mansplaining, it's okay because of the fact that Dr. Fazil already discussed internalization of self-subordination in women. That is found in women. The point is that he's talking about women coming out, not staying at home, self-content, rather than chuka, even if you're not speak among the people, make your presence felt. Auditorium में किसी तरह का कोई मिशन है और जहाँ पे recognition होता है, there is an back behind. There also he would like them to come out कि वहाँ पे आकर अपनी identity बनाओ. पीछे से support करना चाहिए कि वो अक्सर ये analogies होते हैं, this metaphor that they like cream in milk. Cream is not visible, so it is visible when it comes on the top. That metaphor also does not work, but people often use it. So is that the women do not get any kind of recognition or they do not own an identity. That's why they would like to come out and their goals. You know, the idea of self-effacing, self-abnegate, being kind of compassionate, engineering behavior.
I think women being compared to metaphors is not something just limited to literature. It exists in real life. And styles with metaphors. So this conversation is actually trailing along the lines of violence, and I think it's about time we get there. So hello, when we talk. Hello. So when we talk about equality, men often jump at the chance to justify what. Then it is no longer about equal opportunity, justice, freedom, but then it is about should I hit you as hard as I hit a man? And the conversation boils down to this. So, what is the root cause of this response, and how can we pull it out?
So, the only reason I use the word compassion is because we need solidarity. Because as contributive justice, which is relatively a newer word, moves far distant way ahead of distributive justice. And we've seen in past, for example, that is immensely important in the kind of debates that are reaching on, with that fine gentleman gives examples from Sweden. I'm sure many of them know him, who gives examples of women as modelers, or yeah, I will come up to that when the right question comes. But this is something that we need to understand. Ethical recklessness, is permitted in men because the structures and the interpersonal behavior permits it. They're ethically reckless. And it's not that I'm making it up on my own. Everybody knows this. Everybody has been like this. Let's go behind. Kant. And we know that Kant is, he's not here to answer for us, but he limited it. And finally, the modern research when they came up, the research even now says, Gilligan also says that autonomy is the basis of decision making in men, whereas care perspective is the basis of decision making in women. Now, my point is, this binary is the problem, because when you say that men autonomy, it seems like men is equal to autonomy, and every time this person will make autonomous decisions, and you completely forget the fact that there is a false structure, there are supporting pillars as well. And when you talk about women, you completely forget the fact that it's basic consequentialism through which this care perspective is stopped. And care perspective on its own is not wrong. But 80% of me is taking decision by autonomy, 20% through care perspective. If I speak like that, people will find it amusing. This is where men should not be limited during making these decisions. So when we talk about ethics and justice, it's completely important that we recognize that both of these genders. If it is not being shown in a particular gender, then there is a problem in our whole socio-cultural setup, which is precisely the reason why we are here today, why you know, in scores of uh, people, especially women, who have to ask the question, very basic.
About violence, I'll come to that, but also about success, because success and violence for women, they are going hand in hand. NCRB reports show that past 2 decades, more women have been successful, they've been contributors to the economy, but with the same proportion, violence against them has also increased. Are aligned with the expectations of the society, then you are successful. And with women, this is not happening most of the time because now women are making very different choices, which they're not expected to make and they're not advised to make. So the structure of violence is standing against their choices and the idea of success that they would want to pursue. Apart from that, I think what Urisa was also mentioning, I heard many of my students saying that, even meals, I love all of my students, so if somebody is sitting there, they'll understand why I'm saying. Some of the male students also said that, I said, why aren't women participating or girls participating there? It should be open for them also the union elections. Choice तो अब उन्हीं की है वो नहीं आती है तो क्या करें कई बार तो फिर उनको बेयर करना पड़ेगा. So I think that's one example that came to me. That we always use violence as a parameter. Whenever we are trying to find solutions, we see I'm one person who sees the work, then takes decision. So when I see that yes, it might end up clearing feelings or the situation, I still feel that women should take it up. Why should men always think about violence? Why should they that there will be a violent outcome to a certain decision or a solution or a situation? So violence, of course, but keeping the baseline that why should men be violent? Why should men suffer violence from each other? We have to even struggle against that and not use it as a marker or as a parameter to decide things for women or to deter women from making such choices. We were discussing the other day, why should we normalize violence, number one? And since you said that men equal autonomy, men equal care. So right now, it's a very important example came to my mind. Like is if you look at the world leaders, how they behave during the pandemic. So some of the successful leaders who control the pandemic, the spread of the pandemic in their country, for women. Why shouldn't we steer the discussion towards that kind of approach in the position of leadership, in power positions? Or why should we normalize instead violence as if it's the norm and it has to somehow permeate our society and we can do nothing about it? Even men who say, definitely my students also have had a very heated discussion with me long ago, not now. They said that if women come out of girls participating students in these elections, what will happen if it happens in the night, in the dead of night, at the station? Any kind of fight between two groups takes place there. Will they be available? Will girls be available to fight for them? So this is what all the boys fighting, fisting, punching. Why should we normalize it? Why should be violence or fighting or this kind of aggressive behavior should always be expected from the leaders? Why not shield? Why not even men for the sake of a male safety? Don't they get broken bones? Don't they bleed? Sounding like Shakespeare. Don't they bleed when they are cut? They also bleed when they also get hurt. Men do have
definitely sensory feelings. They have tactile feelings. So when we tell them hurt, because I'm not a man, it doesn't mean that I don't know that it gets hurt. So why should they be beaten up? Why should they beat others? Why should they beat? This is a big question, and this should enter mainstream debate when it comes to leadership, whether it's students' leadership or the global leadership or national leadership.
I have a problem with types in general. I have a problem with that. And there is a man type or there's a woman type, and women have been accused of not fitting in the die of a man's idea of being or the other way around. I think there is no such type. The men, do we go by the definition of man being violent inherently? Or are we going by the definition of men being of certain kind? We only have those people because they are produced from a particular system in place. The individual is created from a particular system in place. We have a system in place where aggression, violence, has the upper hand. It rules the way the world works. So, in that sense, women who are trying to change, who are changing that state, or trying to change the state, to whatever avenue, be it election or any kind of, changing the spaces for that matter, outdoor spaces. They are coming into a field ruled by a certain kind of attributes. And they have been set to royal power. And that doesn't mean that they are like that by some DNA problem. They have been also born as mother in the system. And of course, when the system changes, there are things happening. Then the types of people we have, the individuals we have will also change, men will also change, and women will also change. So the type of compassion and emotion. Also, again, made up, hardwired or definitely that's a performance. So you have the competitive aspects of living the life, then given the start of the mass of gender. So it's not getting get the idea of what is man, violence, that can become. So I think that is the problem. We are all in that sense, always becoming something. Final stage of being, and we are not what we have been, eating ourselves with.
So this debate is, it also extends to the debate of development, that we as humans inherently are we violent, are we aggressive against the nature. So this debate or trying to find our true nature would lead to nothing. So what we are sure of, we should talk about that. Like, we don't want violence among men, among women, with or against anybody. So since we're not sure of what nature, what is a true human nature, and leave alone the true man's nature or what is manliness or masculinity for that. Since this debate starts from an individual and leads to a global catastrophe that we are seeing, that are we going to have this sixth mass extinction because of the Anthropocene era, or is this because of capitalism, or there are other reasons for that? So that's a different debate altogether, about which we can never be sure. And what we can be sure of is the kind of solution, the kind of future we're looking for, and that I think collectively as human beings and as a species sharing a common existence and common space, I don't think violence should have space anywhere.
Yes, if I may, sorry, but we need to explain this. We know about, we don't talk about something that might be experienced about a couple of weeks ago was common. You used to talk about structural violence. Physical violence is over exaggerated and given undue importance. Why am I saying that? In a recent research, we found, and it's open, it's government data, that women in India, regardless of their socio-economic position, 80% of the women were anemic. That is structural violence. That is data, hard data in front of you. All of us are contributors to that. Let us admit our contribution to that. That physical violence is only a tiny speck of dust in university. Not that it's not important, but once you say that this seat is reserved for women, then you find the structural violence coming in. not physical threat of violence, but a character, a language, suddenly putting her in a box that is made in our heads, these nine boxes. So, that's something that all of us, whenever you talk to a new person and he or she asks you, and this is on both sides of the world, both experience, before even knowing you, they're ready to put you in a box. Okay? As soon as they are clear that you belong to this particular box, box number 9, now the discussion is very easy. They know what to take seriously and what not. And that is the basic problem of structural violence.
Stereotypes to that, the product of structure.
We have come to stereotypes, we've come to structural violence. So let's discuss something about our university. So this is a yes. This is a rather touchy subject, but I think I should be more to address it. So female students of all ages, minors and adults alike, are subjected to protectiveness warranted by parents and enforced by the university administration. The question arises, in this day and age, can we treat justice for security? Who would like to go? Can we create justice for security?
Creating justice definitely, this sounds very contradictory to me, because if you ensure justice, there'll be no need for security. If you ensure that the conditions inside and outside both are same for everyone, men and women, and that's what we try to achieve as a thinking, as a society of thinking people who are intelligent, as an intelligent species, we try to achieve that. We try to, as a civilization, within codes, it's not catching as a civilization, we try to ensure that we make our society safe for everyone. So if we ensure safety for all of us, that will be justice, and there will be no contradiction in terms of whether it's justice. There should not be either one situation. Both should be available. If there is justice, there is. There's no justice. If people are being violent on the road, only then there'll be the need for security. This is something strange. And we always say effectiveness you talked about, we often say that will feel bad. Yes, instance exactly as the plastic discussion in Karka, very well-meaning boy, who was quite, I should not body shame. A very well-meaning boy had said in a classroom discussion that girls should not be allowed to participate in university students' elections due to the fact that they might be teased. So the threat is there, is actually keeping the threat alive. It's a big question. If we're keeping the threat alive, only then we have to think about protecting them. If we start thinking on the lines of breaking down the level of the threat, teasing होगी कुछ शेयर होगा, तो हम क्या करेंगे? Passion था उसकी आवाज़ में must be just 18 or 19. So he was just a child, and he was talking like that child. I'm not trying to infantilize him, and he was a young man, but the point is that as a teacher, I felt that anyone for that matter is vulnerable, that is female, and even then we think on the lines of protecting women, and we think on the lines of protecting women by talking about this, that there are various kinds of threats. Those threats are there for everyone, and why should we talk about bringing down the level of those threats instead of talking about keeping women in swamps or protected somewhere, which might, in such a manner that might make them feel very uncomfortable because they're not educated, they put in mind, they make their choices, they're morally independent, as we're talking about all these things. So why should we try to keep them protected? Protection in the name of protecting your liberties.
So I think I must first ask a huge apology because we know who does it. We know the window. And an apology is duly needed, as I often talk about. And security as a word, and none was not using security as a word, and which is cool. Security as a word does not belong to this. Safety, yes, okay, we can discuss it, right? Security doesn't even belong in that realm. You know what security. But at the end of the day, we must face the reality. Karachi massacre 2 years ago was because of it was a women's issue. And I'm not trying to say that we should fight between oppressions because there is no hierarchy in oppression. But I has already said that fascinatingly well. But we must understand that it took that bicycle which the mom bought for her 10th going girl that caused the massacre. The whole world knew about it. But her was helping a woman is a disabled man. So here you see that the power is not really with these people. They know that the arguments are pretty shallow, and therefore a disabled man, a mother who is hardly educated and of a lower caste, lives away from the town, and she promises well that education will make a difference. Buys a bicycle for her daughter because she has independent flying colors. And what happened? That killing, that rape is not the problem. The bigger problem is people who are absolutely fine with no action being taken. So we must admit this particular fact that the structure needs to take up. The structures need to change. Only then can women have this, safety versus discussions, because they actively perpetrate in that particular problem within this university, outside this university. When we know it, when we unknowingly do it, we keep on doing it. That is where this whole conditionality needs to improve.
Yeah, as you were saying about the political psychology that keeps these fears alive. So it's a well-established fact that the political psychology is used even if you're not facing a real-life threat or not facing threat directly, or you haven't experienced it directly. But the fear is enough to keep you from exploring things because you know that there are many people who have experienced it. So that's how political psychology works. It works for caste groups, it works for gender groups, it works for all sorts of marginalized identities. But for gender, it's so much in your face that you have a number of these examples that you can quote randomly, and you'll understand how psychology works because this happens when people ask you, "आपके साथ ऐसा हुआ?" Then you say, "नहीं हुआ." तो आपको नहीं बोलने वाली. So this I understand because you will be asked these questions. Many girls, many boys will be asked these questions. आप क्यों इसमें कचरे में पड़ते हैं? तो आपके साथ नहीं होगा. कभी नहीं हो लाइफ में. आपकी पूरी फैमिली कभी नहीं हो. But you should be aware of how political psychology works and how it deters people from making choices and taking actions. And about the security and safety aspect of it. I think that women also have to take charge and women also have to break these barriers and take it up on themselves as well if others are not going to do it. They go out and wear a brunt and ask and make people accountable, ask the administration to take charge of the situation. If counseling sessions is needed, women have to do it and others must support because we're sharing the same space. Why would we want anyone to suffer and feel bad about their lives?
I think it's a very tricky situation because I think we discussed earlier as well that in situations of conflict, when I'm talking about particular kind of conflict, community-based conflict, where the idea of all sources has become very huge. So there it becomes very, very difficult to address this issue of security and then freedom. Then in a normal situation, in a peaceful society, the discussion of what patriarchy would be pitched against men of the same community, right? So I have a problem, I'm recognizing in my discourse the man of my own society, of my own house in one community. In the conflict situation, this other thing happens Right, more within the community is already there. It's not going anywhere. But it's important, ignored, and the threat comes lesser from other communities. So in that case, women are supposed to then not talk about their own agency and their own rights, but talk about their own community. And so there it becomes particularly heavy. Actually, the rest. I think the right way would be still the fact that we should come out as much as we can, regardless of the problems we have had. And it is very risky point of view. But yeah, I think they really don't have a proper answer because maybe the whole dynamic has been put aside, or the new dynamic has come into place where the othering has been done, and then the lesson is not, you know, a man from my own house, my own wife, but the man of the other community. So in that sense, this is what it is. Then it's a different situation. And we can't apply all those ideas which are, we talk about terrorist types of peace. We have always seen that we have a situation of conflict. These things do take effect. And women issues and women struggle and women takes a replicate goes back in a couple of decades. Whatever strides were made aside, and we just go back in time. And that's it. So in any situation, you can plan.
And most of the conflicts, the reason has been given that something happened with the women of the community. So they are considered as extension of men of the community. That's another problem that women are not considered as independent beings or entities in themselves, but they are considered as extension of male members of the community. That's why they also feel that when something of this sort happens, when a male member of their community is targeted or faces violent consequences, then they feel that they also have to come out and support, and they have to forget whatever fights or struggles they were dealing with. So, as you said, yeah, it's an area which has to be explored, and we need to find how to communicate about it. That women are made to forget in the name of community, in the name of culture. They are made to forget their own struggles within the communities, within the cultural systems, when there's a conflict situation with outside, inside the sort of a relationship.
For example, let's say the idea of job Taliban and Pakistan cannot be applied to the thing which is happening right now in India. So they are two separate issues. But again, if you want to universalize these issues, you will see that we are making, we are taking steps backwards in the whole drama of all this. That's the fact. There's no way to bounce
Wallowing in this cesspool, I would say, because we're not able to think beyond it creatively. Women are here to keep going back and forth and dealing with the same issues, sometimes within the community, sometimes with the outside world. So it seems that women are not allowed to move forward, and with women, I think men around them are also not moving forward or having multi-directional approach towards life. They're not trying to be creative. They're also struggling with the same issues. But all of us are stuck in a box, and we're not trying to break it.
In the context that you referred to, I can see a lot of people, members of the audience leaving. The audience round will be open soon, and you will be able to ask questions. Something moderator though, but still I think that she's going to open the floor soon. So please stay back. In context of AU and where we have some kind of, please do not take me wrongly, where we have some kind of insecurity working when people say that women or girls should not participate in things in which they are supposed to be outside, then it is couples involved, people might fight with each other, etc. etc. I know a case that happened a few years ago on campus. There was this very smart girl from law who was almost winning. And I was told by my students that they were worried about the fact that a girl would win. And she definitely did not leave much margin between herself and the guy who finally won. So what I'm trying to say is that the question was not about her ability as a leader, whether or not she would be raising the right kinds of issues for the student community. The question was about her gender. So this insecurity should definitely go. With that comes the idea, a very radical idea that we have to actually communicate, and we have to keep reiterating and re-emphasizing again and again the idea, the radical idea that women are just as much human beings as men are, or women are human beings. That's it. And by saying that, I'm not trying to, the debate will become very complex if we talk about what a human being is. What do we put there? If we go by Foucault, we are anti-humanist. If we go by take Chomsky, we know that human values are there, some have universal values which may have various kinds of manifestations in different cultures, but they are there, essentially. So I'm not going to that debate, but definitely the first step towards making the society better for both men as well as women would be acceptance and rather, putting this in the mind of every member of the society that women are human beings, girls are human beings, boys are human beings, girls are human beings, the end period. But women are also ghosts, they get possessed. So their health status is also decided by, others. If they need what kind of treatment they need. They need to be beaten up or they need proper hospitalization. So women are also ghosts.
Thank you so much for your input and thank you for your apologies. Now, this makes a very important question, education. So, AU is a minority institution. Students here come from all backgrounds, mostly people, students, first and second generation students. So, whether or not my rights are given in a certain setting, I mean, I learned about mine because I was deprived. So, it is necessary for a woman to rise. Education must prevail. So, if the university rid itself of the protectiveness that we have spoken, would it prevent further education in the minority community? Would if we remove the safety or the protective aspect of the university that it provides to the female students here, would it keep the first and second generation female students from the Muslim community particularly from coming here, from getting educated, from getting an education?
Oh, yes, it will. That's why I say that right now, get education because that's the priority. But along with that, keep raising these issues. It's not that you give up on it and you come to the streets and only fight for other things. But education has to be your priority. But the only thing my concern is that some of the girl students that I came across, they were saying that. Let's leave all these issues aside because we have to be focused on one thing. We just want to get education from here and move on. That attitude, I think, is counterproductive. You have to be aware of the situation. You must participate and you must be vocal about this idea. But having the main concern of gaining education, of course, as you said, that there are many ways and many levels on which women negotiate reality and with their lives and environment. So, of course, if we say that, remove all the safety nets, but the university's responsibility is, I'm not saying to not provide security and safety. In fact, the university has to provide safety and security and not put the onus on the girls or provide safety by stopping them from doing things or keeping them confined to a building. So that's not called providing safety and security consciously. But if you really want to provide safety and security consciously and make the girls' mobility and the environment conducive for their creativity to flourish and blossom, and also help their families
feel good about it and feel good that their girls are moving around in a safe environment. So it depends upon the education of boys who are studying with these girls and the education of the entire city for that matter. It's the boys' education. When we talk, first of all, I have this concern, it's the education, and we still have to talk about these ideas. What is happening to education? So yeah, education has to be the priority, not just for women, but for men equally. And what kind of education are we giving, and how are we failing miserably? So we have to take account of that as well, because the women's security issue is directly related to the kind of education we're imparting to all the members of our society.
It's a very low cost change. We have to calibrate it in terms of multiple lifestyle of the project or considerations of that. It doesn't happen in one day. But also, on a cynical note, this is also that, are we getting thinking in visuals after finishing the versus what matter? Right on to we have automatons of sorts produced by the university like a factory product, and it's this knowledgeable lag of business is so prominent about people of the young people of this stage. And just leave a power. Education is a goal, but in the current setting, what education is leading to for any gender is also very upsetting situation. And anyway, it's a very slow process. So education is important. Whatever you get, whatever form of it comes in your life, go for it. If you have that is the only place you can go. Please also that would be a very big step for you to go. But at the end of it, when they take a big giant change in society around you, no, not necessarily. It's a very wrong. It is possibly taking steps ahead, 5 steps backwards. This is the way. So that's it.
To how people have progressed here, and please address me with my name. Don't call me ma'am. It's some kind of othering at me. So on Wednesday. Thinking about how women are spotted on stage nowadays. I've read articles by Shivu Hassan Sahab. He wrote an article that I recently have read that when he used to act on stage in the 70s, there were certain 60s and 70s, they were struggling hard to do it. But as Salman you said, that one step forward, two step backward. So that is something that we don't understand. And where does this education lead us is a big question. So what kind of education are we providing? Are we just manufacturing people who can be the labor force of the discussed or a capitalist market? And जहाँ पे MNC में multinational company डाल के हमारा बच्चा बहुत अच्छी salary कमाएगा and will be rich. So is that the only purpose? Is that the only goal? Or are we trying to ask the university produce thinking individuals who can think independently, who can think critically, because that is also a very important purpose of university education. So that you have members who would be changing the society for the better.
It's different. You know, as a professional credit trader, we are all making miniature capitalists. That's what education is meant to do. You have a credit card in your pocket. You can buy an iPhone, no matter if you have the money. Having said that, this two steps forward and backward, I think there is an equation that we should attach to it. That is, the university was limited, and this is questionable. The university was very limited in its scope. In fact, when the university started, it was pretty early days. Let's speak the truth. And in those terms, the question that you asked is very intelligent. That now, when the masses will come, it would look like you're going backward, but it's not really backward because you are measuring it from false reference. These people were not getting education.
it's not because I come from a family where none of us have parents or anybody has been on the first one. But this is something we have observed. That these people who come here nowadays come from, basis of faith. The university is opening up. The moment it opens up, you'll get a feel of what is there.
You're right, statistics analysis matters.
Okay, numbers do matter. Thank you. I understand.
Thank you so much for very enlightening inputs. And now we will be concluding the session. So let me ask concluding question, and then we can open the mic for questions from the audience. So after discussing all of what we did, is there a solution to this? Where can we all agree, or do we need to agree to disagree? Or does it require a change in our system or our perspective? Or is there a third solution, maybe a non-binary one? Yes.
So, since a few days, probably it is pretty good. So, I see three things which, in the whole discussion of going forward, and this is not from feminism, and I'm not trying to overlap or try to outsmart them or anything, but in the philosophy of justice, there are three things that must come. One is that this discussion that it is smart that women join the workforce. I hate Barack Obama for saying this time and again. It must be smart for you. If it's not smart, then also it's not fair. So if it's not fair, so from smart, we need to move to the right. They should be here because that is the right thing. And this must be understood as a basic principle of education. The second is we need to move from the word equality to equity. And this is extremely important. At times, people completely lose it. And this is the fraternity debate is going on still in Sweden. So in Sweden, you have parental leave for 2 years, and which the man and the woman can share. They don't need to be husband and wife in Sweden. So now, extent studies have come out who say that this is kind of problematic because as far as the first 6 months is concerned, there is no discussion of gender. It's completely unfair because of the sheer mammalian biology. We need to understand this and give value to that. And this is something that also needs to go there. But this is something that so from smart to right, from equality to equity, and then third, and I'm still thinking that somebody is going to pose a question maybe attentively, is from distributive justice alone to contributive justice. And this is extremely important. I'm pretty passionate about this particular part. Distributive justice is not working. I mean, Marx says that. Capitalist society work, work, they're working their trade. The real thing is, unless and until people understand that this is a moral problem, they would not understand this distributive justice that we're talking about. And open your Twitter box every day, you will find against caste reservations, against women's participation in parliamentary workforce, against anything, you find very flimsy arguments, very tough, rude, and forgive me for crappy arguments in favor of the fundamental wrong premise, that is merit. But the question of merit is fundamentally wrong. So yes, we need to move, and we need to move from these smart to right discussions, from equality to equity, and from distributive justice to real, and all of us do together contribute.
If you combine the idea of justice with equality, you get equity. Since many times we ask these questions, why should women have a separate line? Why should have any kind of why should we have any kind of reservation? So in both the cases, we think about actually giving the kind of required leave to a section of the society that has been deprived for quite a long time. It's not taking things from one person to depriving one set of people to give certain things to another set of people. So, to contribute to justice, you're also include the idea of corrective justice, in which you need to correct certain things that were not done all right in the past. So you have to right the wrongs of the past. Not that we sometimes allocate certain things in terms of money or opportunity to certain people, and that should not actually baffle anyone. So definitely with this note, we should continue our discussion, and if you have to say anything, in addition to these points about the solution, we can't have an absolute solution. We will look for better solutions every now and then. It's a process. We cannot pinpoint that, okay, we've reached a point from where we don't need to move forward. Not an absolute solution, but yes, in democracy, we need these two, three things. And democracy is the solution, provided we're able to live it. And it becomes part of our lived reality where we have accountability, we have participation, a good enough representation, and not tokenism. Because tokenism has been part of our culture in institutions, in families, in government policy. So we put one member and say that, okay, this tribe's member is there, and so we take the box and we give it representation, or the woman judge is there, so the judgment is correct. We need more numbers, proper representation, all kinds of identities. That I think will give us better perspective on things.
I think after a couple of years, really to pinpoint a reason for any change to happen is not possible. We live in a world where things are happening on their own, and they are one day suddenly something happens, and kind of like the way we have in science fiction, the idea of a movie was that suddenly some the event happens, those starts and reaction, and that is one for better or worse. So we can't really say that. Of course, we can try. Sure that things happen in the future, which will make us, force us, bend us in some particular way, totally beyond our control. I know it's all difficult, but
If there is any kind of takeaway from today's discussion, why don't we have a thought with us that we can ponder over? That is why right now, we are in the middle of a war. We know that. And bullies are fighting, and common people are suffering. So, as a model of leadership, as a model of lifestyle in the world, why don't we take that we can assign value or importance to such kind of model which makes the society a better and a safer place to live, and gives individual humans to reach their, whatever is their optimal level. They are happier, they are more satisfied. Okay, so why don't we take those models and try to glorify those models? I'm talking about leaders like Jacinda Ardern. They are not beyond criticism. The point is that, or in Merkel, they're not beyond criticism. But the point is that we have such leadership, we witness such leadership there, but now we are facing a very strange situation. And, what is going on in the brain. So the takeaway should be that let's start thinking about the way the world is going. Let's start thinking about what meaning we assign to whom. I'm not trying to offend you, Salman, but let me tell you that this is the culture of Pakistan. That leads to, I'm not saying that only men are capable of violence, but this is the culture of Pakistan. Mostly it is related with masculinity, and they're not men. Masculinity, this is the kind of उसके लिए अलग panel discussion चाहिए. So उससे associated है, and women also can be masculine in that sense. So let's have this idea in our mind that let's make our society safer, better, and as Rushika said that why not everyone should have, we should pay this, we should try to turn the society more conducive for everybody to live. What are just conclude it as.
Great discussion. Thank you, everybody. So, if you have questions from the audience,
We should clap for the audience. You chose to be here. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here for our first on event. Thank you for being so patient with us. And if you have any questions, yes, please. Good evening, and I would like to thank all the panel members for giving such wonderful opinions. My question is, I would want to put forth my views about something that I've been struggling with on this topic. And then after I've done that, I would really appreciate if you could give me your opinions. So when I struggle with the idea of understanding what it meant to be female with feminism since I was young, I I have these two approaches. I go back to the fundamental core of what it means to be a female, which is that she has an XX chromosome. We need to, and then there's the other approach in which we go to the more modern, newer data that we have an understanding about gender. So first we look at the binary approach. There's XX and there's XX. The evolutionary process has caused there to be two different chromosomes, which means that for the survival of the human species, God or nature or whatever you would call it, the evolutionary process found it necessary to have two different genetic compositions for the survival of the human species. And for anyone who's well versed in genetics, you would know that if the chromosome arm is different, like for males it's Y, that means there's a multitude of differences that happen in the and they're not negligible. They have, they account for something. And so when we understand genders, we need to understand that there are some differences that might need to be the same. If we want to talk about a world in which men and female are equal, it means that for equality, you have to acknowledge that there is a difference at the genetic level, and the genetic difference has a massive metaphysical implications. So it is our duty to understand what difference, that genetic difference, what implications does it have in today's society? Because there is a difference at the time. The evolutionary process did create a difference. It's not just someone's opinion. It's there. It's objective. It's not someone's opinion. It's not subjective. It's objective. So we need to analyze what that genetic difference means in today's society. That's how I would try to understand first. I would go back, I would go all the way to the orthodoxy approach. I would say, okay, so male and female are different at some level. But then I think also that we are now located at a point in society where even if you're XX, you can identify with a different gender. Society as a whole is changing. We are located at a pinnacle, and I think some of the panelists mentioned it's that the core of society has shaken, so we have lots of different opinions and data. So how much of this old classic model can be really applied? But some of it has to be applied. There is a balance that should be maintained. We don't need to go completely. We can't disregard everything we know about the fundamental values of the genders and of the binaries, but we cannot survive with just a binary system. It's not possible. I mean, children of Gen Z, children of the 21st century, we are quite done with this. I mean, we're all pretty much open-minded, and I think most of my friends don't think that females are inferior to males in any regard. So, just gaining education.
I think there is a very clear problem with two things mix up. You give definition of sex, but you use the word gender. Chromosomes are defined in our sex. Man and woman. Gender is a performance inculcated in an individual by virtue of being in society, by certain norms which are introduced. The problem is the gender and the rules defined around them, which is what biological is social. That's the basic premise of any kind of discussion if you want to go into this direction. Chromosomes define our sex, but biological sex. And gender is what we perform. So a man has to be a kind, but for a mature and macho man, that's the gender part. And he's born in a body of looks like something. That's the thing. So the discussion is not around changing sex, but there is also about that discussion. But what we were talking about was questions around the topic of sex, not based on chromosomes.
Yeah, so what's your name again? They announced that I just slipped my mind.
My name is Abir. I'm really sorry with the lingo. I didn't do it intentionally. I agree with what you said. It's just gender and that sometimes, when I'm speaking about it.
No, no, we totally understand because that's the popular perception. We can't hold you down. So, Abira, you said it?
Abir, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, it's a very important question that you raised because most of the time we, encounter these questions that there has to be the differences have to be respected, and people say that we are all for equality and justice, but differences have to be. So, definitely have to be respected. That's what we've been saying. Differences have to be respected. But what kind of differences are you saying? Are you talking about biological determinism? That your body type will define your opportunities, your body type will define your choices, your body type will define your mobility. That would be biological determinism that we left long ago. And we need to move beyond these things because obviously then we have to bring in other identities and different kinds of bodies with different kind of physical abilities, with different kind of physical conditions, mental conditions. All those conditions have to be respected, and an environment has to be created so that they don't suffer, they don't face violence, they get equal opportunities. They are not suffering only because of their body type or their mental condition. So we have affirmative action for that. We have many other systems in place for that to fix that. If there is a lag, although it's wrong to use the word, but since you are talking about biological determinism and biology is seen as a lab, so if we talk about labs, then the labs have to be addressed, all the marginalities have to be addressed, and we should not say that you have a certain body type, so why don't you sit? If somebody wants to get up, go to the podium, there should be arrangement for that.
Also, the one more thing that the idea of gender and first mentioned that there are certain types, you have to maintain that difference. Men today don't go and hunt for their food. Okay, we should have that. We are changed from that, and we are men doing some other kind of job. The aggression is there, but men are not lifting boulders and have a world where we have technology around which enables us to do almost everything, regardless of what gender you have. So the types and the kinds and the categories we have from that age also has changed a lot. And they were also productive of the time they were established. Now we have some more time in a lot of things. So,
So, for example, since we are seeing it from the lens of our cultural system, and Gupta talked about cultural relativism, which is very important to understand that there are many cultures. For example, there are these tribes, Janguli, who have a very different arrangement for men and women. Women are masculine, women are working the day, and men are the duties. So we want to protect the men as well. We don't want that replicated everywhere. So it's not biological determinism. Then women have, if we go back to biology, it's the same. But the cultural system is very different, where men are the victims. With difference, we're not talking about eliminating any kind of difference. We're talking about keeping them, respecting them. With difference should not come with the same path, the same path. Discrimination. This is what we are talking about. With difference, we should not also, difference should not lead to any kind of, disdain for a certain kind of people, and women face disdain. Definitely. As you said that girls are supposed to be inferior. Some of your friends told you. No, they said that they're not inferior. She said that apparently they're not inferior. But with somehow, there are certain things that we did not go into because the time was limited.
but we know that with women, their intelligence is also a suspect, a huge suspect. We and we are not trying to anymore use. Many people have switched to even she, men. I know a lot of men on the campus, instead of using the pronoun he, they call aya hai, call I hai, that two words. And in case of God also, this is very, a very controversial thing. The point is that it's fairly, I mean, the concept of Islamic Iman. It's fairly written that it's either male or female, but it's highly uncomfortable as an idea to think that we can ever replace he with she. So definitely, so far as language is concerned, we should critically analyze our language because language constitutes our social reality. Language is what we actually think in. So we should keep thinking. And it's not that language remains stagnant. It evolves. It's something organic. And as you know, we are sitting on the universities in the university space and academic space. We can definitely think about language, critically analyze our language. People say language is divine. There also I have an argument that the language is divine. The capacity that is called universal grammar, tacit grammar that we are fitted with the chip that we carry, that is divine. Speaking is specific. So far as the way it manifests in its performative power, language as performance, there comes in the idea, the possibility of change and evolution of the language is something organic and it's evolving because it is something that is used by human beings and analyzing the great question. Our language, the way it is right now, is a very good idea. And if you have that idea in mind, that shows that there's hope. And we should keep changing, keep working on the way language is used. There's nothing wrong. Like in the university also, you must have seen the shift from chairman to chairperson. It happened within 5 or 10 years. Within this.
Okay, so this time, number one, it wasn't Eve alone that people have in their mind. Moses directly said that it is due to Adam that we are here. And when this was mentioned before the prophet, he said, "What? I mean, not the same language. So what are you saying? Do you not believe in decrees?" So a person who knows himself or herself by this particular faith and does not know the tenets of other understanding is bound to get into a problem. Uh, the second thing is, I'm just making a point that, you cannot draw one should not draw a point from his or her own interpretation, and that is the essence of certain religions like this. Two, when we talk about languages being divine, it is used in a certain specific sense. So many people argue that Bible is no more in its primitive Aramaic form because people annotated it and wrote it. But some people of some religion, whether we believe in them or not, as Muslims, some of us believe that the Quran is written in the actual language it is. We're not talking about Arabic as a language, as a day-to-day language. So day-to-day languages have a grammar that is made standard. In fact, this is how preserved languages by scanning their grammars. And that is, so these are two different, we kind of mixing here in terms of art religious.
And it's about changing language. When our ideas change, language is like a cover that helps us, transmit our ideas and communicate our ideas. When the idea of society changes, when the idea of genders, when the idea of power relations, and all these things, relations, social relations, structures, they change. Language is bound to change. Language will change, but we can make the best of words, best use of the words that are available right now, best use of the expressions, and we can try to be conscious in our individual capacity to communicate with a sensitive approach towards things and lives and other identities that we come across.
Feminist scholar allocation, which one? There is this portion in the question which talks of feminists using patriarchal tools to understand the society. Language being totally patriarchal. That is, there's some kind of problem there. Because men and women both have been using language for since the day we came into existence. The point is that it tends towards male bias, that is very much there, and that is question. But question, it doesn't mean that feminists or anyone for that matter should stop using.
Yeah, no, because those are things women have right now, and as we were discussing about the internal conflict and the external conflict, as an insider, how you handle the situation as an outsider. There have been movements where women felt that, wearing a certain uh, attire will help them negotiate better and fight for certain other rights, fight for mobility for that matter. If they wear something which is more in line with the sentiments of the community, and then they would be able to negotiate for their mobility, for their other opportunities. So we have to understand that in the given situation, under these circumstances, if women are making these choices, we, as we said, analyze the circumstances under which they're making these choices, the words they're using. Maybe they're using those words to express some concern, but also negotiate in a certain way for other opportunities and chance of mobility. But when we will have an understanding, a collective understanding of the change that has come about, even women's language will change because right now we have these uh, snippets and examples from the patriarchal structure. And within that, people are trying to negotiate in their own limited capacity. So we see that many women and many movements are also they are contingent upon the circumstances within which they are performing. So they end up using that language sometimes to make sense, to communicate so that others can understand, because that's the common language of understanding, to make sense. So right now, yes, we are in a situation where we end up using the same expressions to fight, as they said, as they say, कि आप उसी कलम से उन्हीं से कलम लेकर उन्हीं के कलाम कैसे आप लिखेंगे. So right now we're in the same situation. कि अभी कलम तो हमारा बना नहीं है ठीक से, तो उसकी ही कोशिश हो रही है. अभी तो गौरव करके ही थोड़ा काम चलाना पड़ेगा. So the British colonialism. It actually is with the British colonialism.
we use the same tools that they provide us, not to overthrow them.
All right, that marks the end of this event. And thank you so much for being here. I'd like to thank the panelists and the audience, and I request the guests to stay back.